I'm just kidding. What's up, Grace Report? How's everyone doing? What is up? Let me scroll back up here. What is up, Tammy, Matthew, Carol, Tyranna, Wendy, Chris, Kyle? As I scroll down, hold on, guys. Wake Shapeberry, what's up? Joanne, Ann, how's it going? And Brandon, how's everyone doing? How was your day today while we wait for a few people to trickle in? Did you guys see that Beetlejuice trailer as we wait for people to come in? I saw it. I have a little niche about it because the first one had stop motion in it, and they showed a scene of the sandworm, and I nearly fell off my chair because of how bad it looked. But that's me. What did you guys think of it? Brandon, thank you for being a member of the Wolf Pack for 1 month. 12 months in the pack. The juice is loose. Hearts for Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate that. Logical Spark. How's it going? Tyranna goes, I haven't seen it, but I was going to. Yeah, there's a scene in it, Tyranna. Don't mean to give it away, but it was a little too CGI'd for me. For me, at least. I know some people, but for me, it kind of bothered me. It bothered me. Wake Shapeberry goes, I haven't seen it, but want to see the new movie. I mean, I'll see the new movie, but it was just, that scene just did not, I don't know, it just seemed off in the trailer. For those of you that have seen the trailer. Logical Spark, I am talking about the Beetlejuice trailer. It dropped today. The original did not have CGI in it, as far as I know. So, but I did notice a scene in the trailer that they posted today that there was where they showed, I believe it's, what are they called? Sandworms? The worm. I don't know what they call it, but don't quote me because I don't know what the exact name of it is. But it was badly CGI'd, and you could tell it was badly CGI'd. I need to fish. What is up, Jennifer Marie? Awesome. Hopefully I could get your exercise on with my show here, Jennifer Marie. Matthew goes, it's early enough to where it's still rough. I agree, it was rough. I felt like it was kind of rushed. Now that Matthew had mentioned that, I kind of feel like it was rushed just in that part. Wake Shapeberry, I heard that too, but then I also heard that they were, don't quote me, but I heard something where what's his face wanted to keep the he wanted the practical, but I think it might have taken too long and the movie wasn't going to be out in time or something like that. So then they came to a deal where they would put CGI into it, and he agreed to it. Tim Burton. But sandworms. Matthew goes, Beetlejuice sandworms. I hate them myself. I did like a few scenes out of that trailer that was kind of cool. With Jenna Ortega being the typical teenager in it. But that just kind of, I don't know, that just kind of disappointed me seeing that sandworm scene. It was only like a split. It wasn't even that long in the trailer, but it made that effect on me. And it disappointed me. Carol goes, this is hard to see on my phone. Gunner girl, what's up? Kyle is still stoked for the movie. I mean, I'm gonna watch it. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna check it out. But that scene, it disappointed me. It did. And I'm not a huge fan of Beetlejuice or anything, but my heart still goes with the movies that came out in the 80s. I've always felt like those movies are always better than nowadays because of the lack of CGI. Don't get me wrong, there's some movies that have great CGI in it and I can't even tell. Like beautifully shot. Nothing wrong with it. It's just I felt like with that movie, it did not fit. For me, it didn't at least. Lisa Boo, how's it going? And I believe it's coming out in September, if I'm not mistaken. Still. But I do have an article. Tyrana, thank you for being a member of the Wolfpack for 11 months. Thank you for your great spooky stories. Hearts for Tyrana. Sabrina, how's it going? Wake Shapeberry goes, the original Beetlejuice was so cool. It was. It was so cool. I know there's some people that don't like the original, but I'm not a huge fan of Beetlejuice, but I did like it. And as we're waiting for, I do have an article on it that we'll go through, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, the spooky wooky. The ghost with the most gets up to some new tricks in Beetlejuice. When you get a chance, I cannot show the trailer here because YouTube will take me down faster than anything ever before. They'll strike me down. So when you get a chance after the stream, go for it and go check it out. Bernadette, what is up? It comes out September 6th, the day after Michael Keaton's birthday. So here is a picture of Beetlejuice. You don't want to say it 3 times because you know what happens. Unless you want to conjure up Beetlejuice. Bernadette, I know you would say Beetlejuice 3 times. He does not look that bad at all. And there was a few scenes that just made me laugh in the trailer as well. Kyle goes, the original will always be the best, but I know they weren't going to make the sequel unless it was strong enough to warrant being made. At least it wasn't the going Hawaiian. Exactly. I agree with you. Bernadette goes, I've tried and nothing. The new trailer for Beetlejuice makes a strong argument for never telling your teenage children about your troubled past. And that was part of in the trailer, Jenna Ortega's character was being a typical teenager, and it made me laugh. As Lydia, Winona Ryder, she looks great in the trailer, by the way. Tries to explain, in all seriousness, her previous encounter with the trickster demon Beetlejuice, played by Michael Keaton. Her daughter, Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, clearly unimpressed, just keeps doing the things she really shouldn't do, as teenagers do. Yeah, she says his name 3 times. Of course she does, and the juice is loose again to wreak havoc on the same family and a new generation of moviegoers. Once it gets past the requisite haunted child Deo, this trailer is actually a lot of fun. Stripy sandworms, spiky bangs, Catherine O'Hara's perfect face, Justin Theroux struggling to take it all in, and of course Michael Keaton having a grand old time, an older, tired-looking Beetlejuice. But hey, he looks good. I don't consider him an older, tired-looking Beetlejuice. He looks good. Is somehow maybe just what this decade needs. Here is the synopsis. Beetlejuice is back after an unexpected family tragedy. 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River, still haunted by Beetlejuice. Lydia's life is turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter, Astrid, discovers the mysterious model of the town in the attic, which looks cool. I wouldn't mind having that model. It's freaking awesome. And the portal to the afterlife is accidentally opened. With trouble brewing in both realms, it's only a matter of time until someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times and the mischievous demon returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. I don't consider him a demon. Do you guys consider Beetlejuice a demon? Beetlejuice is, of course, directed by Tim Burton. The cast also includes Monica Bellucci, William Dafoe, Arthur Conti. Wednesdays, Alfred Goh and Miles Miller wrote the screenplay. Seth Graham-Smith joins them for story credit. The characters were originally created by Michael McDowell and Larry Wilson. The film is in theaters September 6th, as Bernadette had said. Because spooky season comes earlier and earlier every year. Not that we're complaining. If you guys get a chance, go out and check that trailer. Let me know what you think about it. On Telegram, if you're on my Telegram. If not, let me know on my next stream. What's up, Nerd Report? Nerd Report in the house. Kyle goes, it's confirmed that it's the death of the dad. I kind of figured that, Kyle. I knew it was something. And thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Welcome. It's not showing anybody yet. Oh, yeah, there it is. Matthew, Carol, Wendy, Gutter Girl, Joanne. To the Wolf Pack. I know you guys know what the deal is, so I'm not going to re-say it, but hearts to Anne and all the returning Wolfpack members. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. No, I did I kind of figured that it was the dad because like the grandfather, and I think also too they kind of hint at it in the trailer as well. That would be cool if Gina Davis showed up, did a cameo. It's funny with her because she was on the Exorcist TV show, and I got to she's the first person I ever got to interview because I was at the table and they made us all ask questions, and I'm like, so then I came up with something. So thank you, Anne, again for gifting 5 more memberships. Hearts to Anne, and welcome Saffron, Chrissy Twig, Sybil, Vimes, Mystic Gaming, Rich Buddy. Welcome to the Wolf Pack, and as always, guys, just a reminder, if you're new to memberships, they are good for 1 month. Hearts for Ann and all the new Wolf Pack members. And thank you again, Ann. You are super awesome. You really are. Like big hearts and virtual hugs for Ann. So as I was saying, we were at a round table, and they let me sit at the table because there wasn't a lot of people, but I wasn't there to interview. But they made us all answer questions, and I was like, "Yeah, I gotta ask her a question." So I came up with something. I don't even remember what the question what I had asked, but she answered it, and it was like the very first person I had ever interviewed in my entire life was Gina Davis. So how is that cool? She's an amazing person. She was super cool. Wink Shaper goes, I love Gina. Always had a crush on her. Chris Barber goes, the dude who played the dad died a while back. So, but that would be pretty cool if she made like a cameo in there. But if not, it's for the new generation, so I don't mind if they don't. We already have Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, which were kind of like, and we have what's I don't know the actress, what's her name? She comes back too. Lydia's mother. I don't remember the actress that plays her, but she comes back too. Catherine O'Hara. She comes back as well, so that's kind of cool. Bernie Dick goes, I wish Johnny Depp was Jenna Ortega's dad. That would have made me so happy. That would have been cool. But I think, but the problem is, if Johnny Depp was in that movie, I think he would outshine everybody else. There would be, I mean, it'd be cool as a cameo, maybe Bernadette, but if he was like a main character, no one would pay attention to anything else in the movie. Sabrina goes, Earth Girls Are Easy is one of my favorites. I don't think I've seen that one, Sabrina. But I feel like Johnny Depp would take the spotlight from everyone if he was in that movie. And he'd probably play some he would I don't know, he wouldn't be a normal character. He even as a cameo, I feel like he would take the spotlight from everybody. Bernadette goes, "I don't know, I'd have Johnny and Michael in there together." Kyle goes, "Jack Sparrow's ghost." Wake Shapeberry goes, "Do you remember Cutthroat Island with Gina Davis?" No, I don't. Matthew goes, "I know that one," and Transylvania 5000. Wake Shapeberry goes, it was good. You know what? I probably came across it. I just don't remember it. There's a lot of things I don't remember. If I saw it, then I'll be like, "Oh," but there's a lot of things I don't remember. Besides the films that I watched over and over again. Sabrina goes, "It's an 80s movie with Gina." I've heard of it, Sabrina, but I haven't seen it. Oh, The Fly. Chris Barber goes, "The Fly." I love The Fly. Kyle goes, "I have that movie. It's a classic." I do, like I said earlier, I do like the movies. I don't know, there's something about the horror movies in the 80s, like most of the movies I'm gonna say from the 80s, um, were better than some of the movies that come out today because I'm not a big fan. I like practical effects over CGI, but don't get me wrong, like I said earlier, I've seen some beautiful films that are like completely CGI'd and you can't even tell the difference. All right, guys, I have before we get into some ghost stories that I have here for you. I'm going to get through some stories and we'll get into some ghost stories, some campfire stories as well as some ghost stories. But I found this article. It does have a video. It's kind of cool. It's about a family uh where they would put their daughter to sleep and they would close the door, go to sleep. They have the baby monitor in there, but they were sleep training her, so they would put her to bed, make sure she was comfortable, close the door. They closed the door only because it would get cold. But when they closed the door to the daughter's room, that would keep, it wouldn't get too cold. And in the morning, they would wake up and the door would be open. And this is from Heather Whatever. What is up? Anne goes, "I think JD could perfectly act out Alice in Wonderland syndrome." Ooh. I seriously wish they would make um like an actual, besides the video game, because they had a horror video game of Alice in Wonderland. I really wish they would make a movie. And he'd be perfect in it. He'd be crazy perfect for it. So a terrified father, and I will play the video after I read the article, says his family had to call upon their deceased grandparents for help against some dark spirits haunting their baby. I did not know they did that. Robin Uada said he and his family were suspicious of paranormal activity for over a year before his deceased grandma stepped in from the other side to help. I'm wondering how they know. So this is a picture of Robin Uada. This is his baby daughter, which I think was a year old at the time of the hauntings. Uada and his wife kept finding the door to their 1-year-old daughter, Feha? That is a weird name. Fihi? Room. I know I'm butchering this. I mean, for one, she'll have a very unique name, so it's kind of cool. Opened in the mornings. Though they later determined that the door was being opened by spirits, they initially blamed each other for not closing the door properly. To settle their arguments, the Orem, Utah couple decided to see who the culprit was through their baby's camera. Shockingly, the video appears to show the door opening completely by itself or by what they say was a spirit, which left them worried. Then they started noticing strange occurrences around the house, and Uada says that one of their cameras caught something circulating the car. A worried Uada then decided to call his mother, who is spiritually gifted, to help with the paranormal incidents. He even called upon the help of his grandparents, who passed away, to watch over them from the other side. Thankfully, Uada believes that it's all been taken care of. This happened when Fehi or Fei was a little over 1 year old back in 2021, he said. It started shortly after my wife and I found out we were pregnant with our second child. At the time, it was very unsettling, but now that it's been taken care of, I feel so much more at peace. My wife and I keep finding our daughter's door open in the morning, because I don't want to keep butchering her name. We would argue with each other about not closing it properly, so we decided to move the baby cam to jokingly call out who didn't close it right. Aside from the baby monitor clip, we have really unusual experiences whenever we would pull into our parking space for our home. The camera and sensors of our car would pick up something circling our car, letting us know that something was there. It almost felt like this bad spirit was waiting for us whenever we came home. When these issues came up, I immediately called my mom, who's spiritually gifted. She told us of some of her superstitions within Tongan culture. We called upon the help of my grandma and grandpa, who had both passed on, to watch over us from the other side. For the clip of the door opening in my daughter's nursery, my mom believes it was my grandma trying to protect my daughter from the dark spirit. And she is so cute. So I am going to play the video, but I feel like by what I've seen, so sorry, I was reading the chat. So I'm going to show you the video, but what I have seen, it didn't seem like it was menacing. It was just opening the door. And he kind of explains it too, as well, in this clip.
The moment proactive started working.
Don't mind the proactive ad.
So that video that you guys just saw is from our baby monitor. Our daughter is sleeping in her crib and you see the door open by itself. This was probably one of the first scary experiences that we had. But to kind of go more in detail, at the time, this happened a couple of years ago. Our daughter was like 1, but we were sleep training her and we would put her to sleep and then lay her down in her crib, and she was doing really good, like sleeping through the night. And something that we did specifically is that when we laid her down, we would make sure to close the door to her room because it got a little chilly sometimes, but the heat would circulate in her room if the door was closed. So every night we would close the door and we would just go to bed. But when we would wake up, the door to her room was open. And so my wife and I would kind of argue here and there about like, oh, you forgot to close the door or whatever, or like, oh, did you open the door to go check on her like early this morning before I woke up, whatever it may be. And so it got to this point where we got in this heated argument and I wanted to prove my wife wrong. So I wanted to like basically like catch her on camera that she was the one who was like not closing the door properly or whatever it may be. So I moved the baby cam to ensure that I could see like the crib and the door. And so that night when we went to sleep after I moved the baby cam, my wife wakes up in the middle of the night and she's like, I just heard the door open. And I was like, what? She's like, I just heard the door open. It clicked. And like, you can hear it in her voice that like something wasn't right. And she was like, somebody is in her room. You need to go check. And I literally ran to the room. I opened our door and lo and behold, the door to our daughter's nursery is open, wide open. So I jumped to our baby cam to see if we can catch it on camera. And that is what I caught on camera.
All right. I feel like because of the way they had explained it as it was scary to them, like to me, that's not scary. Um, I mean, I guess to some people would be, but if a door was opening, I don't feel like that's scary. But they do. It seems like their beliefs are very spiritual driven, so they kind of understand what is going on, and but I don't feel like that constituted as being evil. But according to them, his mom has psychic abilities that they were saying that were saying uh that the grandmother was possibly protecting the daughter from something evil and checking on her. That's what the door was opening. I don't know if I believe them. Like I've said in the past, TikTok is definitely one where I'm kind of skeptical about. There's too many people putting videos up because they want to be TikTok famous, and it's kind of hard for me to believe videos nowadays because also with technology and people being able to edit, making you can add things into videos. You can I can't do that. I'm not that great at editing. I mean, you could probably tell the little glitching when I edit, but some people are really good to where they could get it and you can't even tell what that it was edited. So I'm kind of skeptical. I don't dismiss that stuff happens, but wake shit. Wake Shape Bear goes, what I find most hard to believe is that he has a wife. Sorry, Wake Shape Berry. But but that to me didn't seem scary. I mean, I guess for some people it would be, but to me that's just a door opening. It's nothing it's nothing harmful. I would take it as someone watching over my daughter, like if that was my, if that happened to me, which I could believe in, but as I said, I'm still skeptical. I'm still skeptical when it comes to those things. But I don't dismiss that stuff happens. But now I'm definitely going to question things more often than I would have before. And I thought it was hilarious that that like Lisa Boo saying he wanted to catch her opening the door, like he wanted to prove her wrong, and I thought that was kind of hilarious. Heather, whatever goes, the protective mama bear thing took me by surprise. Thank you, Gunner Girl. I appreciate that. I love your laugh, Lisa. You always make me smile. Thank you, Gunner Girl. Appreciate that. Um, but I want to say because they're a very spiritual based family. I want to say that it's not fake, but you never know. You never know. It's like I want to believe. Don't get me wrong. I want to believe that people aren't trying to get internet famous and actually showing this video because they want to show the world like look at what we found, like look at this. But Heather, whatever go, I'd sneak in there and freak that husband out. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think it's fake or do you think they generally experienced that the door opening on its own to their daughter? That they were generally freaked out about. Holy crap, Carol, that's crazy. A wait time for 445 minutes. That means there's a lot of people calling. You might not be the only one having problems, Carol. Heather, whatever goes, just the door. No. Oh no, she switched it to 45 minutes. Okay, that's a little better, but still. It's either that or they've got two people working the call center. Which could happen. Chris Barber goes, it could be happening, but unless it's bugging the baby, I wouldn't worry. Yeah, same here. Like to me that like I had said in earlier streams, if it isn't broke, why fix it? Like if a ghost is just opening doors or pushing things off my counter, not doing anything to me, not causing me any harm, I have no problem living with a ghost. I really don't. It's the ones where you got the crazy, like the demons or something that come in that try to possess you and start scratching you and start you're losing sleep over stuff like that. Yeah, then I have a problem with it. But not something opening the door. Like I don't mind spirits, to be honest with you. Kara, I know how you feel. Sometimes it's annoying. Technology is great when it works, but when it doesn't work, oh, it's a pain in the ass. So I totally understand. I totally understand. All right, we're gonna get into a little UFO news. Heather, whatever goes. I was a jumpy mod. Good thing. Tiny sound was my middle son who couldn't breathe trying to call me. He had pneumonia. Got him to the hospital. Oh wow, that's awesome. That is super good. No, sometimes that's a good thing, Heather. Whatever. It's not a bad thing. So this is New Mexico UFO incidents you've never heard of. If you've been following me for quite some time, you guys know that I do believe on life on other planets, but I'm still looking, searching for the truth. The truth is out there. There you go. The truth is out there that they are coming here. There are UFOs. Because I've yet to see one. I hope to see one day, but I'm a little skeptical. But I find it plausible. I do find it plausible, but I'm still skeptical at the same time, if that makes any sense. So, Albuquerque, New Mexico, you probably already know about the Roswell UFO incident, but New Mexico's history of unidentified flying objects is far richer and weirder than just that one event. To explore the history, KRQE News 13 spoke with David Marler, the executive director of National UFO Historical Records Center. He has access to a massive collection of UFO reports from New Mexico and around the world. Here are a few incidents you might not have heard of. 1957 Albuquerque radar incident. When you look at the history of UFO sightings in New Mexico, admittedly, we don't have a large population compared to some states. But what we do have is a wealth of military operations areas and scientific and research development areas, Marler says. The state has a rich history of UFO sightings going back to 1947 by trained and qualified observers, military, civilian, and pilots. On November 4th, 1957, military radar operators tracked an unknown object straight out of the science fiction magazine. Marler tells the story from the original military reports from Kirtland Air Force Base. The object actually violated the base perimeter at Kirtland Air Force Base, and two seasoned personnel were observing the object from the control tower of Kirtland with binoculars, Marler said. The object was described as looking like a car standing vertically on end and a white light at the bottom, Marler said. The flight characteristics were highly unusual. The report said the object could hover, change directions, and move rapidly, and that's not the only report of odd flying objects in the state. And trust me, when I was at EDC during the quiet times, I was looking at the sky, seeing if I spotted any UFOs. I was on the lookout when I was in Vegas. The 1959 super speed incident. This didn't involve a sighting, but rather a radar tracking, Marler said. We have the original unknown track report from Kirtland Air Force Base from September of 1959. What's unusual about this is that it wasn't just one radar or two radars or three radars. It was four separate radar stations strategically placed throughout New Mexico. All four were tracking this unknown object. The object came in from south of the border, then flew toward Hobbs, then toward Levelland, Texas, near Lubbock, and then flew back toward Tucumcari, New Mexico. The original radar report estimated the object's speed at 2,200 miles per hour and showed the object making sharp, angular turns. We didn't have aircraft that couldn't move that fast, Marler said. Now, we do have other radar track reports that could be chalked up to radar interference, system malfunctions, or atmospheric phenomenon. But having 4 separate stations detecting this, they consider this to be a serious nature. The military took some of the UFO reports seriously, not because they thought they were aliens, but because they were concerned about Russia or other countries during the Cold War, which makes sense. They were of concern that this could be a Soviet technology, Marler said. When the Air Force got involved, they weren't here to prove aliens existed. They weren't thinking aliens, but they were thinking Russians. Which, I mean, perfectly fine. That makes perfect sense. The 1964 Hobbs burn case. Sightings are one thing, but contact with a UFO that raises new questions, as was the case of a 1964 incident in Hobbs, New Mexico. It reportedly happened to an 8-year-old boy outside of a laundromat. The boy's grandmother was standing just feet from him when the incident occurred. What they both described was seeing the black top-shaped object that hovered over a nearby building, and he looked at it and he stood up and he moved to the left, and the object mimicked his maneuver, and it moved to the left and hovered. He moved to the right and it replicated his maneuver, Marler said. Eventually it made a beeline course directly toward him. It's like the song where it goes move to the right, move to the right, move to the left, move to, I don't know, something like that. There's a song that does that. A column of fire emitted out of the bottom of the object, set his hair on fire, and burned his face, Marler said. He had burns from the jawline up. I mean, for that to happen, wouldn't the object be like super close? After being rushed to the hospital, the boy was treated and made a recovery, Marler said. The odd thing, however, was that the report from Hobbs matches another event in Georgia. In Livonia, Georgia, there was a gentleman by the name of Buford Parham, who was a salesman coming home late one night around 1 a.m. in the morning. Marler said he was suddenly accosted by the black top-shaped object flying around his car, emitting flame out of the bottom. For a few weeks after that, others in Georgia reported similar sightings, Marler said. Police, business leaders, housewives, all manner of people were describing these and all the sightings, including the Hobbs incident, occurred on Tuesdays, Marler adds. 1950 Farmington incident. This incident, which was extremely dramatic in nature, occurred not over one evening or one day. It occurred over 2.5 days, Marler said. It happened during broad daylight. People in Farmington, New Mexico began reporting seeing a group of flying objects in the sky. It was described in Farmington, but at the same time, it was being described on the other side of the state in Tucumcari. People were describing dish-shaped silver objects there as well, Marler said. Some also described a larger red dish-shaped object that seemed to be leading the silver objects. The LA Times said 50 people in Farmington, including some pilots, reported seeing the objects. The Farmington Daily Times ran the headlines, "Huge Saucer Armada Jolts Farmington." So, were they aliens or something else? I employ the terminology much in the same way the military does. We're not saying extraterrestrials. We're not saying aliens, Marler said. What we are simply saying is there are unidentified objects that do not conform, apparently, to conventional aircraft or any type of prosaic explanation. For Marler, the point is not to make people believers. Rather, his goal is to help preserve the history and record. I think we have to keep an open mind. Extraterrestrial and alien should be at the bottom of the list if we are going to be practical in looking at the UFO subject, Marler said. Some of these documents weren't declassified until 20 or 30 years after the event. But as we start bringing these records together, we can now start painting a clearer picture of what transpired. Marler continues to bring those records together, curating an ever-growing collection of the National UFO Historical Records Center. You can read more about his collection when you click this link. So Marler is more concerned about record keeping, which there's nothing wrong with that. He's not saying it's UFOs, but he's saying it's something that we can't explain, which is nothing wrong with that. Crisper, it's like the pew pew. Wakeshift Berry goes UFO. Carol at 1 a.m. I'm carrying my revolver with me to answer the door. Wendy goes, the salesman at 1 in the morning gets greeted with a pop pop. Heather whatever goes, fight song football. Chris Barber goes, I wish UFOs would buzz around Dayton. I still believe that Wright Patterson Air Force Base is hiding something. Wake Sheepberry goes, whatever it was could not have a biological pilot, so must be a drone. But sometimes, though, some of these sightings, I feel like they're too high for a drone to travel in some cases. So, and the speed at what people have, I have never seen one, but what I have read of what people have seen, I feel like, oh, guys, thank you, Bernadette. I forgot. Guys, as always, Skeleton Duck is somewhere in the background. Just remind me by the end of the stream, and I will reveal his location because I will forget. Trust me, and I have. So just remind me. And he's somewhere around here. If you don't know what he looks like, let me grab his picture real quick. He is located on the upper right-hand corner, kind of where my finger's pointing right there. That is what he looks like. So just remind me at the end of the stream, I will reveal his location. Wake Sheepberry goes an alien drone. Matthew goes, yes, an alien drone or probe. Carol goes, but the question would be which one? Wendy goes to the Jehovah's, don't come down my drive no more trying to build the ministry. I don't know how they got my name, but I get random messages like mailed to my house from the Jehovah Witnesses. I'm like, dude, I did not like sign up for anything. Like it's handwritten from someone in the city over. And I'm like, dude, you're wasting your time. Like, I don't know where you got my name. It's weird. That is the unexplained right there. That's why sometimes I wish I had this long driveway that you had to walk up into with like I would make it look creepy so no one would walk up my driveway except the mailman. Even that, I would probably put the mailbox at the bottom of the driveway. Just to be funny. Then I won't get any telemarketers. I won't get any people trying to sell me stuff at the doors. All right, guys, who loves campfire ghost stories or ghost stories in general? Wake Shapeberry goes me. Chris Barr's like me. Tyrana goes me. Lisa Boo goes me. Joanne's like me. Heather whatever goes scary campfire. I don't know if these are scary, but I do have a bunch of articles with stories. So, well, I love ghost stories. I love folklore. I love all of that jazz. So I did find, I'm not sure how scary these are. These might be the cheesy one, but we'll find out. So, this is 6 campfire stories that will give you goosebumps. I also have a Reddit thread for that, and we'll get into ghost stories. We'll see where the day takes us here. So, what's a camping trip without a few scary stories around the campfire? We've read tons of campfire stories and selected the best ones. Oh no. just for you, so your little ones don't get too scared. We have rated them so you can gauge how appropriate they are for your children. Of course, the art of telling campfire stories is to build up the suspense and thrill so chills run down their spine when you get to the end. Before you get to the campfire roaring, you might want to read through them and rehearse once or twice for maximum impact. Unfortunately, I did not do that because I like to be surprised when I read these stories. I know I should probably proofread them before I share them, but because some people do not write their articles well, but which is my fault because I don't proofread. I don't read some of the articles because I like to be surprised, just like you guys. So, the Golden Hand. Premise: a man meets a new neighbor, a charming young woman who wears black gloves. One day, he notices a speck of gold peeking out of her black gloves. When he asked her about it, she says she lost a hand and had it replaced with a gold hand. The man became infatuated with her solid gold hand and plotted to take it. But once he had it, he learned it wasn't worth the price he paid for it. So I guess that's a little synopsis. So he never paid much attention to the neighbors living on his city block until the day the pretty middle-aged widow moved in 2 doors down from him. She was plump and dark with sparkling eyes, and she always wore dark gloves on her hands, even indoors. He went out of his way to meet her, and they often bumped into each other in the street and stood talking. One day, as she brushed the hair back from her forehead, he caught a glimpse of gold under the glove on her right arm. When he asked her about it, she grinned coquettishly and told him that she had lost one hand a few years back and now wore a golden hand in its place. In that moment, a terrible lust woke in his heart, not to possess the lady herself, but to possess the solid gold hand that she wore under her long black gloves. I don't know if I should be reading this. This sounds like it's almost going into the rated R here. We're getting into the Grayson Report After Dark, ladies and gents. He courted the widow with every stratagem known to him: flowers, trips to the theater, gifts, compliments, and he won her heart. Within a month, they were standing in front of a minister, promising to love one another until death parted them. Within another month, he was a widower and he had buried his ailing wife in the local cemetery without her golden hand. It had been so easy, a slow poison administered daily to resemble a wasting disease. No one, not his wife, not the family doctor, not their neighbors, suspected murder. And the night after the funeral, he slept with the golden hand under his pillow. It was a dark night. Clouds covered the moon, and the wind was whistling down the chimney and rattling the shutters of the townhouse. He was deeply asleep when the door to his room slammed open with a loud bang, and a wild wind whipped around the room, scattering papers and books and clothing and table coverings every which way. He sat up, startled by the sudden noise, and his pulse began to pound when he saw a greenish white light bobbing slowly into the room. Before his eyes, the light slowly grew larger, taking on the shape of his dead wife. She was missing one arm. "Where is my golden hand?" she moaned, her dark eyes blazing with red fire. "Give me my golden hand!" He tried to speak, but his mouth was so dry with fear that he could only make soft, gasping noises. The glowing phantom moved closer to him, her once lovely face twisted into a hideous green mask. "You stole my life and you stole my hand. Give me my damn golden hand." I added the damn. The dead wife howled. The noise rose higher and higher, and the phantom pulse was a stringent green light that smote his eyes, making them water. He cowered back against his pillows, and the hard shape of the golden hand pressed against his back. And then he felt the golden hand twitch underneath him as the mingled green phantom that had been his wife swooped down upon him, pressing his face against the pillow in a suffocating green cloud. He tried to scream, but it cut off suddenly by a terrible pressure against his throat, cutting off his breath. The world went black. The next morning, when the housemaid came into the room with her master's morning cup of tea, she found him lying dead on the floor with the golden hand clutched around his throat. And this was an excerpt from Spooky Oregon and retold by S.E. Schlosser. That was a cool story. I that was well written. And then I clicked off of it like an idiot. Give me a second. Lisa Boo goes creepy. Chris Barr goes, let's give that man a... Joanne goes, he should have asked her hand in marriage. Heather, whatever goes, my kids would pick it apart. How do they know the details? Wake Sheepberry goes, awesome. Reading, thank you. Carol goes, the golden hand pays back. Exactly. His wife came back for revenge. All right, the next story. Hold on. I cannot find it because it doesn't click to the right thing, so we won't go to that one. All right, this is the hitchhiking woman. Let me put it back up here. So this is the hitchhiking woman. Does not say ultimate. It's on the ultimate camp resource. It doesn't say who wrote it. I don't think it's going to be as good as the last one, but we'll see. Tom had just left a party and was driving down a dark road all by himself. It was about 12:30 at night and pouring down rain. He had only driven about 2 miles when he saw the faint figure walking on the side of the road. As he got closer, he realized it was a young lady and she was wearing a long white dress. He pulled over and asked her if she would like a ride. She said she would, and she hopped in the front seat. He noticed she was shivering from the rain, so he took off his jacket and offered it to her. She draped the jacket over her shoulders and they started to talk about nothing in particular. When Tom pulled up to her house, he turned to her to ask her something, but she was gone. Puzzled, he thought maybe she had already ran into her house. The following day, Tom realized the girl had left in such a rush that she forgot to give him back his jacket. He remembered where her house was and drove there since he did not have a phone number to call. He knocked on the door and an older woman answered. Tom told her he was there to pick up his jacket and her daughter had from the night before. The woman looked at him strangely and told him he must have had the wrong house. The man was sure this was the right place and he dropped off the girl, so he began to describe her and what she was wearing. The old lady was shaken and began to cry. She explained that her only daughter died 10 years ago on prom night and that the man had described her exactly. She said her daughter was buried up the road at Meadowwood Cemetery. After Tom left the old lady's house, he decided to go find the girl's grave. There, lying on her headstone, was his jacket. That is crazy. Matthew goes, I've heard this before. Wake Shakespeare goes, there's a story about ghost hitchhikers. Chris goes, never pick up dead people hitchhiking. That's true. That one's short. I feel like that's not as good as the last one. Heather whatever goes, give me back my jacket. I liked it. Matthew goes, unless you are purposely going to the haunted mansion. Heather whatever goes, ghost was cold. All right, our next one is The Hook, and it was retold by S.E. Schlauser, and it's excerpted from Spooky Campfire Tales, which is kind of, which I do have a book. It's weird. I do have a book of campfire ghost stories. The reports had been on the radio all day, though she hadn't paid much attention to them. Some crazy man had escaped from the state asylum. They were calling him the Hook Man since he had lost his right arm and had it replaced with a hook. He was a killer, and everyone in the region was warned to keep watch and report anything suspicious. But this didn't interest her. She was more worried about what to wear on her date. After several consultation calls with friends, she chose a blue outfit in a very latest style and was ready and waiting on the porch when her boyfriend came to pick her up in his car. They went to a drive-in movie with another couple, then dropped them off and went parking in the local lovers lane. The blue outfit was a hit, and she cuddled close to her boyfriend as they kissed to the sound of romantic music on the radio. Then the announcer came on and repeated the warning she had heard that afternoon. An insane killer with a hook in place of his right hand was loose in the area. Suddenly, the dark, moonless night didn't seem so romantic to her. The lover's lane was secluded and off the beaten track. A perfect spot for a deranged madman to lurk, she thought, pushing her amorous boyfriend away. Maybe we should get out of here, she said. The Hook Man sounds dangerous. Ah, come on, babe. It's nothing, her boyfriend said, trying to get another kiss. She pushed him away again. No, really. We're all alone out here. I'm scared, she said. They argued for a moment, then the car shook a bit, as if something or someone had touched it. She gave a shriek and said, Get us out of here now! Jeez, her boyfriend said in disgust, but he turned the key and went roaring out of the lover's lane with a screeching of his tires. They drove home in stony silence, and when they pulled into her driveway, he refused to help her out of the car. He was being so unreasonable, she fumed to herself. She opened the door indignantly and stepped into her driveway with her chin up and her lips set. Whirling around, she slammed the door as hard as she could, and then she screamed. Her boyfriend leaped out of the car and caught her in his arms. What is it? What's wrong? He shouted. Then he saw it. A bloody hook hung from the handle of the passenger side door. Bum, bum, bum. Wendy picked up a ghost hitchhiker from Puerto Rico. Some of these, I think the links to these stories are no good. I'm wondering if I search. All right, I found the doggy look one because it wouldn't it doesn't give me, like, it goes to a dead site. So we'll find the doggy lick one. Wake Shapeberry goes, I've got a good book on urban legends. Oh, that is cool. So this is Doggy Lip. It's from Ultimate Camp Resources. Ever since Julie was a little girl, when she got scared, she would put her hand under her bed and her dog would lick her hand to comfort her. Well, now Julie was 14 and her parents were going out and were going to be out until late at night. Julie didn't want to stay home alone, but her parents told her she was old enough to stay home alone and she would be fine. Well, Julie's parents left at 8 p.m. After an hour and a half of watching TV. Julie went to bed. She was kind of scared, sleeping with no one home, when she heard a whimpering sound, almost like a puppy whining. She put her hand under the bed and her hand got licked, so she tried to fall asleep again. Then she heard it again, the whimpering sound. So she put her hand under her bed and her hand got licked. She finally fell asleep and was woken up in the morning to the sound of her dog barking in the backyard. He had been outside all night long. Dun dun dun! It was not her dog after all. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this one. All right. I'm guessing this is the same story because that one doesn't pull up, but it has the same name. So hold on. Give me a second. Let me pull it up. So this one's called Who's That Hiding in the Back Seat? One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar fairly late at night, got in her car, and onto the deserted highway. She noticed a lone pair of headlights in her rearview mirror approaching at a pace just slightly quicker than hers. As the car pulled up behind her, she glanced and saw the turn signal on. The car was going to pass, when suddenly it swerved back behind her, pulled up dangerously close to her tailgate, and the brights flashed. Now she was getting nervous. The lights dimmed for a moment, and then the brights came back on, and the car behind her surged forward. The frightened woman struggled to keep her eyes on the road and fought the urges to look at the car behind her. Finally, her exit approached, but the car continued to follow, flashing the brights periodically. Through every stoplight and turn, it followed her until she pulled into a driveway. She figured her only hope was to make a mad dash into the house and call the police. As she flew from the car, so did the driver of the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the door and call the police! Call 911!" When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car had been trying to save her. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated her car, he saw the silhouette of a man with a butcher knife rising up from the back seat to stab her. So he flashed his brights, and the figure crouched back down. Oh, shit. That's crazy. That's another one. Da, da, da. Heather, whatever goes, ew. Let me see if I can find this one too. Give me a second, guys. I like it when you go to a site and their links don't take you to the story. Lisa Boo goes scary. Chris Barber goes, always check your back seat, kiddies. I don't really have a back seat in my car. My car's a 2-seater, so be kind of hard for me to miss who's in my back seat. All right, this one is the missing boyfriend. A girl and her boyfriend, and this is from Wattpad. A girl and her boyfriend were making out in his car. They had parked in the woods so no one would see them. When they were done, the boy got out to pee and the girl waited for him in the safety of the car. After waiting 5 minutes, the girl got out of the car to look for her boyfriend. Suddenly, she saw a man in the shadows. She jumped back into the car and was starting to drive away when she heard a very faint squeak, squeak, squeak. This continued for a few seconds before the girl decided she had no choice but to drive off. She hit the gas as hard as possible but couldn't go anywhere because someone had tied a rope from the bumper of the car to a nearby tree. The girl slammed on the gas again. Suddenly, she heard a loud scream. She got out of the car and saw that her boyfriend was hanging from the tree. The squeaky noises were his shoes scraping across the top of the car. What? That one's crazy too. Also, make sure your boyfriend's not hanging from a tree or on the top of your car. Heather, whatever goes, oh my God, that's the freakiest. That is. But I hate to say it, it's kind of clever. Because you think it's something you least expect. So guys, what did you think of those stories? I think I liked my favorite one out of those was the golden hand. I like that one the best. Heather whatever goes, especially for driving away, did it? Wink Shape Berry goes, that's a classic urban legend. I've never heard of that one, but I like that story. I do like that story, but I think my favorite one is the golden hand. It was written like perfectly. I really enjoyed that one. Lisa Boo goes, yes, the golden hand was really creepy. I think that was the best. Like it told the story beautifully, got to the punchline, drew you into the story. Didn't leave you hanging. I also got some campfire stories from Reddit, but these aren't going to be written as well. So just that's the only problem with Reddit, but you do get some cool stories from Reddit. So that's why I like reading from Reddit. Wendy goes, it's the drawing in the story. Exactly. That's that. It draws you in, and then you're like, what? And the fact that the guy wasn't in love with his wife, but he was in love with his wife's golden hand. That's what makes it even creepier. So this is the what's your favorite creepy campfire story Reddit. These are fairly these are from like 3 years ago. I don't see I was trying to find like a newer one, but there's also this one. What's this one about? Hold on. So, gosh, let's see if I can recall it correctly. There was a body of a fairly large person once found in the woods. They were quickly killed, and there was nothing extremely off about the scene except he had half of his pointer, ring, and pinky finger all missing from his left hand. No one could find the missing fingers, and they never found any clues. A few weeks later, another body was found, another man who was a bit smaller than the previous guy. Same situation, quickly killed, and 3 fingers missing, all from the left hand, and still no clues. A few more weeks went by, and this time it was a woman who was found, smaller than the second guy found, same finger missing from the same hand. This went on for a while, with the victims getting smaller and smaller until it was a kid's body being found. One teenager's body, though, only had the ring finger and pinky finger removed. The police found a fingerprint at the crime scene, and they found it matched the prints from a theft record from the previous victims. The guy telling the story then told the kids that the killer was searching to replace his fingers, and so far, he has yet to see if the fingers of children their age would fit. He then took off his gloves, showing he had a scarred pointer finger and his missing half and missing half his ring and pinky finger, and then lunged at the kids while screaming. He later told the kids he lost the two in a work accident, and doctors were able to save his very mangled pointer finger. He told the story every year at camp. Ha ha! Chris Burgos one time at band camp. Yes, exactly. Ha ha! That's that's kind of, I feel like that's a little descriptive to be telling the camp kids, but about your missing fingers. But to each his own. Heather, whatever he got him, exactly. He did. I mean, he was creative. I'll give it that one. So the next one goes, I worked as a camp counselor for a few summers and had a great signature ghost story. I don't really remember too many of the details, but the gist was that there was some ghost who would kill you unless you gave him two of your teeth and told him two other names of people to kill. It was a fine story, but the real kicker came at the end of the night when all my baby teeth had been replaced with adult teeth. Two of them never came in and were missing. For a few years, I had a retainer with two fake teeth to fill the gaps. Before sending the kids off to bed, I would pop the retainer out in secret and give them a big old toothy smile. Scared the absolute bejesus out of the little buggers every time. Wake Steve Barry goes, remember the flute at band camp? That one's more of a creative way to tell kids of why you're missing teeth. It's creative. I'll give it that. I'll give them that one. There was a Brit who was driving through Ireland as the weather got progressively worse and day soon turned to night. He suddenly realized that he was on the wrong road, but there was nowhere to turn around, so he pressed on, barely able to see the road through the rain. Without warning, his car just died. No battery, no engine. He assumed water must have shorted something and he'd best start walking. He was soaking wet in 100 yards, but he continued walking. An hour later, he heard a noise behind him and turned to see a car coming very slowly up the road behind him, its lights very dim. As it reaches him, he reaches out through the torrential rain and opens the back door and jumps in. Shocked, he's the only person in the car. There's no one driving and no other passengers. He freezes with fear as the car slowly continues up the road through the pouring rain. Before long, a village comes into view and the car creeps silently and slowly into the village. The Brit spies a pub, so he jumps out and runs inside, not looking back. Panting with horror, he orders a beer and sits down. A minute later, two soaking wet Irishmen come into the pub. The taller one points out the Brit and says, "That's him, Patty. That's the bastard I saw jump out of the car we were pushing." That's a good That's a good one. Delay Lex, what's up? Oh my god, that's a good one. I'm thinking like freaking I'm thinking when I was reading, I don't know about you guys, I was thinking like something was gonna get him when we got out of the car or something like that. That's great. That's funny. That's a good one. I like that one. I remember one of my Cub Scout leaders told us on a camp out when I was probably 7. It took place during pioneer times. A man and his wife traveled west in hopes of either striking it rich in gold or at worst finding a nice plot of land to settle down on and farm, manifest destiny and whatnot. A few months into this journey, they came across just the spot, a beautiful plot of land to make their new home. Winter would be coming in a couple of months, so they build a hasty shack and figured they'll hunker down there for the winter and build a more established house in a few months when the weather is more permitting. They don't worry as the area is teeming with wildlife for hunting and trapping, so they figured they'll be set for food. A couple of months ago go by and the winter is bitter cold and unrelenting. They finished off the last of their food stash and they hadn't seen so much as a squirrel in weeks. They're both slowly starving and freezing to death as they huddle in their shack day after day with no end in sight. The man's wife is delirious with hunger, fearing that they will soon be dead. He decides to go for a hunt. He musters the energy to bundle up and heads out, determined to stay out as long as it takes to find them both some food. A couple of days pass as the man takes shelter under impromptu stick shelters, keeping warm with a campfire in the nighttime and hunting in the daytime. Nearly frozen to death, mercifully, the man spots a beautiful, plump rabbit several yards away. He takes aim with his musket and bang! It's a perfect shot. With a newfound energy, the man runs home, giddy to finally feast with his wife. What he doesn't know is that while he was gone, his wife had discovered some tasty flesh of her own. Literally, the hunger had driven her insane, causing her to believe that her now frostbitten fingertips were ladyfinger cookies. She started off with a few nibbles here and there, slowly pulling the flesh away from her bones. After just a couple of hours, both hands were nothing but bone. So she worked her way up her arm to the elbow. The feeling of something in her stomach just continued to drive her further until she had chewed away at every last bit of skin she could reach, accumulating in her chewing off her own lips. The husband approached the shack with his now frozen kill when he got an uneasy feeling. Fearing the worst, he steps up to the door and slowly opens it, expecting to see his wife's corpse shriveled on the floor. But instead, what he finds is even worse. This zombie-like creature with exposed teeth and bones withering on the floor at the sight of him chopping its jaws with an insatiable hunger. At this point, one of the scouts screeched for the leader to stop, which I was extremely thankful for, as it was easily the most terrifying thing I had ever heard at the age of 7. The scout leader told it with real conviction, too. Honestly, still gives me the creeps if I go camping and happen to think about it sitting around the fire. Chris Berg goes, I'm hunting wabbits. Rooster, what is up? Heather, whatever goes, that's the sickest story ever told. It is. They kind of left us hanging, but I guess that is where the person that posted it, that's as far as they got with the story. I was like getting into it. I was like, come on, keep going. I Wake Shape Barry goes, what's up, Doc? The golden arm, or at least the version my mom tells me. A fellow is looking to be married and one of the rich merchant's daughters to gain the fortune that would come with her. Fortunately, the merchant had an unmarried daughter still, so the fellow begins to court her. The first thing he noticed is that she had a solid gold. Oh, this is kind of like the gold hand. That she has a solid gold right arm. She apparently lost it in a childhood accident, and her father had a golden arm forged for her. Seeing this as a sign of extreme wealth, he continued with courting her, making her believe he truly loved her and not for her father's money. In turn, she fell deeply in love with him. They got married, and the fellow is given his riches along with part of the merchant's business his now father-in-law owned, thus giving him more money. However, he soon realizes his wife was now of no real use, so he ignored her, gave her gifts, and had dinner with her, but the love he said he felt had disappeared. Angry and heartbroken, the daughter accused him of marrying her for her money, in which he boldly states, of course. She was furious, screaming about going to tell her father what a scoundrel he truly was, and their riches would be stripped away along with his job. This angered the fellow. After all, he worked so hard to get to her. He wasn't going to let her take it away, so he pushed her down the cellar stairs and let her snap her neck on the stone. He pleaded, heartbroken, to the grief-stricken father, losing his most favorite daughter, the fellow's riches intact. The fellow and family hold a funeral for the daughter and weep and cry. When it was but him and his dead wife, he opened the casket and pulled out a saw, for she did not need her golden arm in the grave. That night he slept with the arm under. This is kind of similar as the hand, the arm under his pillow, not wanting even the servants to see it before he melts it down into bars. He slept soundly until a voice like the wind asked, "Where's my golden arm?" Slow and far away, the voice echoed through the sleeping house, so quiet he thought it was just a draft, until the voice came again, closer and louder, this time as it down the hall. "Where's my golden arm?" Sitting up, the fellow looked around fearfully, too scared to do anything, as he hears again, much closer, "Where's my golden arm?" He felt the heat on his back and a movement from under his pillow, but he was too scared to look away from the door as he hears again, just outside the frame, the wail of, "Where's my golden arm?" It felt like hellfire on his back as he felt the hot metal of the hand on his back, seemingly crawling on its own as he watched the doorknob turn. The maid found his body that morning, face frozen in horror, and her hair a bright white, hands still clutching the sheets around his body. But the strangest thing was that his dead wife's golden arm was on his chest, hand wrapped tightly around his throat. That's kind of like the golden hand one. Like exactly, but just like a different iteration art. Thank you, Gunner Girl. Heather whatever goes, then she runs after him and eats him. Chris Barber goes, brains. Wendy's like, what the F? Wake shape, very cool. I like that. I kind of like this version. They're both good. They're both good versions of it. Just one's a hand and one's an arm. My family had one called the man in the corn, or beans in the corn. There was once a hobo who was stealing ears of corn from a local man's garden. Now, food was hard to come by, and someone stealing that which you're growing was especially frustrating. The man saw the hobo in the garden and fired his pew pew over the hobo's head. The next day, the hobo was back there again stealing ears of corn. The man decided he would teach the hobo a lesson, so he poured all the lead shot out of his pew pew shells and filled them with small dry beans. The very next day, the hobo was back in the cornfield again, and the man fired twice on the hobo, and the hobo screamed and ran down the corn rows fast, bleeding the whole way. The man watched for days, but the hobo was never seen again. Some days later, the man still had bean shells in his pew pew, so he aimed at a plank of wood standing over by as well. The plank ripped to pieces. When the next planting season came, the farmer walked his cornfield to its far corners to cut corn husks and prepare to plow. Along the way, he found tiny beans plants coming up through the soil. One here, another there, all lining up to lead him to a big bunch of beans coming up along the edge of the field. When he went to examine the bunch of beans, he first saw shoe soles turned to one side, and then the outline of a body sank in the mud and soil. He realized he had killed the hobo, and the random beans that had sprouted out of his body had sprouted along the way. My father had bought that particular farm during the war years, and he said for 20 years random bean plants would show up in that field. Any bean plant that showed up in our garden was given the chance to grow, and one year there was a bean planted that wrapped around a cornstalk. My father did not harvest the corn ears on that plant. When he goes, country y'all. The next one is, so a story I always tell around a campfire that I think is quite spooky is the legend of El Silbón, the whistling ghost. Thank you, Heather Whatever, for your PayPal. Hearts for Heather Whatever. Guys, it's cold up here. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. Thank you, Heather Whatever. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Hearts for Heather Whatever, guys. It is a Venezuelan folktale, but I have a tradition of telling it. Anyway, the legend goes that on cold, dark nights in remote places, especially in South America, a whistle can be heard coming down the road. At first, it will seem loud like it's right next to you, but as time passes, it begins to fade and get more and more quiet until it's almost gone. The trick is, as El Sabon's whistle gets louder, he's further away, and when he's right next to you, the whistle is very faint and sounds like it's far away. Once El Cibon is at your doorstep, he will sit down and begin to count the skulls of his victims, and you have to listen to him count every single skull, or one of your family members will die soon after and become one of his skulls. El Cibon is said to dress like a farmer with a large straw hat, torn clothes, ghostly aura, and a pale, dead face. It's not that scary, but it's interesting. Wake Shapeberry goes human beings. I mean, it's kind of cool with that last story. Not the one before that. That one of the beans went into the corn and he didn't harvest it. He kind of left it, so it was kind of like a kind of as a remembrance, as a respect kind of thing, and I thought that was kind of cool. A group of hitchhikers were wandering through the woods looking for a place to stay at night when they came across a small cabin. They all decided to stay the night inside, seeing as there was no one there. Inside, the cabin is decorated with paintings of what seems to be members of the family that used to own the cabin. The hikers spend the night looking at the paintings and making fun of how wonky they look. In the morning, one wakes up to see the cabin full of morning light and looks around. The paintings are gone. In their place, windows. Dun dun dun. Wake Shapeberry goes whistle and I'll come to you. Classic BW ghost story. One year, a group of us went camping in Kearney, Ontario, where we always go camping. Whenever we go, we always form our tents in a big circle with a fire pit in the middle of us. We've been drinking, smoking a few joints, and a few of us were tripping balls on shrooms. The first night we were there, the guy randomly walked into our circle, introduced himself. I can't remember the name he gave. Then he was in the military and decided to take some vacation to camp out a bit. He asked if he could join our fire, and it was getting late, and he didn't buy any firewood. Being the friendly stone people we are, we let him join our fire. He even pitched in some money for the firewood. The night went on, and we all were having a good time. One by one, our group started heading off to bed. Me being either the second or third, I remember waking up to the sound of someone talking and the fire being started. It was 4 in the morning. I peeped out my tent and saw the random guy just sitting on a log by the fire talking to himself. Still tripping on shrooms, I thought to myself, I am in no condition to deal with this, and chalked it up to me just tripping out. I wake up the next day and everyone is still alive, thankfully, and the fire is smoldering. We look to the next campsite where the random was staying, and it was spotless. No garbage, no tracks in the trail around the site, no nothing. We all started talking about him just to be sure we all saw him. Through talking, we managed to figure out that he must not have slept at all. The last two of our group passed out just after 3:30 a.m. The first person got up just after 6 a.m. and noticed he was gone. The rest of the camping trip went well, and we all went home. Fast forward maybe 4 to 5 years, I flipped on the news and there was a picture of someone I could swear I recognized. He was arrested for a bunch of crimes, including and murder. Guess who it was? It was the random guy who joined our fire. I don't know why I remember his face, but I guess it was just a weird situation where my brain just clicked and saved as a JPEG in my brain. Now, I have no way of proving if it was the same guy. We didn't take any pictures of the random, but the picture jump-started my memory and made me instantly remember the weird random fire joiner. Either that or they look identical to the same person. Either way was creepy. Leonard! Leonard goes, beware of fire. Wake Shape Barry goes, yeah, it's short, very spooky. Matthew goes, look out for the goofball named Ash. And if you're just joining us, we're reading campfire stories from Reddit. I was going to do a different thing, but Chris Barber actually gave me this idea. So I was like, yeah, let's go with it. There were a couple that were, as far as I know, unique to the church camp, Camp Gaylor Maxim, I went to as a kid. Though I admit it's possible some of our stories were ubiquitous ones just adapted to the place. I don't really know. One of them, though, I do have firsthand knowledge about. It's the story of Sydney. The camp was established on an old piece of property that had been a lot of different things over the years. Back during the war, it was a girls' boarding school. One girl who was there was deeply in love with a boy who had gone off to fight. They exchanged letters constantly until one day the letters stopped coming. Few weeks later, she gets word that her beloved was killed in action. She was so distraught that she hanged herself in her dorm room. There's still a plaque by the door of the room in her memory. Now I know for a fact that room is haunted. I stayed in that room one year when I worked for the camp. One night, after lights out, the fan came on by itself. It started spinning faster and faster until it started wobbling really hard, acting like it's about to fall off. I knew the story, so I shouted, "Stop it, Sydney, I'm a friend." Fan immediately stopped, like not just slowed down and came to an eventual stop. It's like someone grabbed the fan blades and stopped it. When my uncle attended university in the early 80s, he was among a group of fraternity brothers responsible for recruiting freshmen who went through a particular kind of hazing involving a supposed haunted house a few miles from campus. An old 3-story Victorian style mansion left abandoned and withering away to the elements after rumor has it the father of the family that resided within had one day gone mad and murdered his wife and 3 children with a hatchet and then hung himself from the second-story stairwell. The hazing involved sending 3 freshman potential fraternity recruits to said house at 3 a.m., 2 equipped with a unique item relating to the murders and all 3 with a candle and a match. The freshmen would be sent one at a time to the house, observed from afar by the frat boys. They were instructed to enter the house, light their candles, and ascend each floor until they got to the attic. They were told to stop at each main picture window of each floor and let their candles show in the window to prove they were actually there and completing the challenge. My uncle was a senior member of the fraternity and he ended up having a worse outcome than anyone else involved. So that night comes, the fated night that changed multiple people's lives irreversibly forever. My uncle, 4 of his frat brothers, and 3 freshmen potential frat brothers arrived at a small bridge on the outskirt of the house around 2:30 a.m. The night is cold and still. Clouds ride across an almost full moon, illuminating the old house and casting eerie shadows. The 3 freshmen are given separate items alongside their candles and matches. The first gets a hatchet representing the murder weapon. The second is given a rope representing the S method. The third is giving a second match because he's told it's almost certain his candle will not burn true after the first 2 ascend the stairs and disturb the spirits. So my uncle, the frat brothers, and the other 2 freshmen watch as the first recruit approaches the old house with a hatchet, a candle, and a match in his hand. Nervously, he enters, and in the dark night, the rest can plainly see the match strike, light, and ignite the candle. The house has many large picture windows, and the whole group watches as a glow illuminates the first floor windows, passing one by one until the stairs when it begins to rise. First floor, second floor, and then the candle goes out. They spectate for a minute, most likely a draft or moving too fast from panic, so they send the second freshman recruit, equipped with a rope, candle, and match. And eerily enough, the same events unfold. First floor, second floor, and candle goes out. The third and last recruit is obviously shaken, but the frat brothers try to rationalize the situation by explaining that the other two recruits are probably just messing with them. Hold up and the second floor, laughing in the dark and skipping on a hip flask. My uncle says he didn't believe this, but he just laughed and agreed to ease the tension. So they send the third freshman to investigate, give his buddies a kick in the ass, and remind them that they can't join the frat unless they make it to the attic and prove it with the candle glowing in the window. With nothing but a candle and 2 matches, the third, visibly trembling freshman approaches the house, gives an apprehensive look back to the group, then enters. Again, it happens the same thing. First floor, second floor, and the candle goes out. It doesn't relight despite the second match. My uncle and his buddies are perplexed. Do these guys just not want to join the frat? Are they just screwing with them to be cocky or prove something? It's got to be freezing, dark, and miserable in that old house. What do they have to gain? So they wait and wait and wait. 2 hours have passed. The beer has all been drunk, and my uncle and his frat buddies are just annoyed at this point. So they say, F it, leave them, let the freshmen enjoy their little prank and sit in the cold and dark, not going to give them this satisfaction. So they go back to the dorm and sleep it off, eager to see the freshman recruits the next day and inform them that they failed the test and hope it was worth it. But the freshmen never show up. In fact, they still haven't shown up the next day either. Nervous, my uncle and his buddies decide to investigate the whole house before getting police involved and potentially a massive scandal. Well, what they found, my uncle never forgot or forgave himself. At the top of the second floor stairway, they found the first freshman, face down in a pool of blood with a hatchet buried in his head, hanging by the rope he brought with the second freshman dangling from the second floor railing. Panicked and horrified, they called the police. The third freshman was never found, but there were footprints in the dust leading up the stairs and out an open window. The police never found him, and he is believed to be the top suspect. Why would he kill his friends? No known motive, but he's the only suspect and is still missing to this day. After an extensive investigation, no charges are filed on the frat or my uncle due to lack of evidence. My uncle's fraternity completely disbanded after the incident. Hazing gone wrong ends in 2 grisly deaths, the paper said. Big mess swept under the rug. But then the incident started happening. Now, here's the even more peculiar part of the whole mess. Each year, almost on the dot, the night of the deaths of those 2 freshmen, my uncle's frat brothers started dropping like flies one at a time. Grief-stricken alcoholism, tragic accident. Each was explained away and forgotten. Only my uncle seemed to draw the connection, and it haunted him for the rest of his life until he was the last one left. 12 years later, he found himself the last of his fraternity to be alive, and the anniversary was approaching. Terrified, he panicked, sold all his worldly possessions, and decided to live the vagrant rail riding hobo lifestyle. Who knows why? He certainly don't. All we know is how he was found 2 days after the anniversary. He was found at a railroad station by a worker unloading boxcars. He was found alone, dead and cold, a horrible shock look frozen on his face. Beside him was a candle and 2 burnt-out matches. And scratched in the door of the boxcar was, "Ah!" That's when you scream and scare that ever-loving crap out of the bunch of 12-year-old Boy Scouts and have them hike in the dark back of their camp. Good time. Leonor goes, "Da, da, da." Chris Barry goes, "Scary." Wow, I like that story. That was written really well. That's it's original. I haven't heard anything like that. It's kind of cool. There was a young girl playing in her room one day when she heard a voice that sounded like her mother's from the kitchen. "Sweetie, come down here." The little girl jumped up and ran out the door when she suddenly ran into her mother at the top of the stairs. Her mother reached out and quickly covered the girl's mouth so she couldn't make a sound. "Don't go down there. I heard it too," she said. Dun dun dun! That's a short one. My father was a man of extensive creative talents, prone to the odd tale of whimsy and horror, as the mood might take him. I recall one story in particular seared into my memory and piercing the veil of time to visit me on occasion, even now. It spoke of a civilization that hung on the precipice, how the city tethered on the edge of disaster, the waves of destruction crashing into the shoals beneath the cliff it resided upon. All the people in the civilization saw the threat, were fully aware of the impending doom, but they did nothing to halt its progress. The challenge resided in their need to rely upon each other, to place the concerns of the future above the tribal, but more immediate desire of the present. They consoled themselves by protesting that the city upon the cliff had stood for generations and it had never fallen into the sea. Surely it would last for a generation longer. There was no need to change their behavior now, with history being so eloquent an excuse to continue as they had. And so they built as those who had come before them had built. The buildings grew higher, the wells bore deeper, the people and their things became even more numerous. Each person added the merest feather to the load, and each believed their feathers could surely not be responsible for any consequences. It was but a feather. A feather would not break the earth, could not be the final burning which broke the soil beneath the city and caused it to tumble into sea. Besides, why should they give up the feathers if others did not? Leonore, thank you for the super sticker. Hearts for Leonore, guys. Thank you, Leonore. You're awesome. And so each person lived as they desired, heedless of the cracks slowly winding their way up the pavement, careless of the small quakes that rumbled beneath. They paid no mind to the inconvenient hairbingers, for there were things to build, desires to fulfill, dreams to live that could not be forestalled in favor of imagined nightmares far off. The city grew and grew, each living for themselves, a great collection of individuals, but not a society, a civilization of human without humanity. Feather upon feather was added. Then came the final feather. A great groan sounded out, and the world began to tilt and shift. Screeching pierced the night as the tip of the cliff sheared off, dooming the city on the hill to the death of the sea below. In the briefest of moments, the project of generations was reduced to ruins, and a great future of possibility was lost. I called out to my father, wondering why the people would fail to heed the warnings, wondering why they would give up so much in service of so little. He leaned forward and laid a hand on my shoulders, his eyes sad and distant, and he whispered, "That, my child, is the way people are." That was good. That was written well. All right, we're going to read one more story. Chris Burgo's camp would have been fun as a kid. Wish I could have gone. Same here. I didn't really go. I went to camp with I think in 6th grade, like my school sent us to camp. But we didn't like sit around a campfire and told campfires, like, or ghost stories. I'm sorry. But I never really went like where what you see on TV type of camp. There once was a girl named Mary Sue. She would always wear a bow around her neck. The kids at school would always say, Mary Sue, take off that bow, will you?" But she refused. In high school, her best friends asked her to take it off as they had gone out of fashion, but Mary Sue refused. One day, Mary Sue met the man of her dreams, and he asked her to take her off her bow, but she replied, "One day you will find out." Almost 60 years later, after Mary Sue's children had grown up and moved out, Mary Sue went up to her husband. "Do you want to see what is under my bow?" she asked. Her husband put down his newspaper. "Are you sure? You've never taken it off." "I am sure, my love," Mary Sue said, pulling the end of her bow. The bow fell to the ground shortly, followed by her head, then the rest of her body. All right, guys, I am going to open it up for questions and answers. So if you guys have any questions, it could be horror related, it could be anything, ask away. Which of the stories did you like the best? Leonore's asking where the duck is. The duck, before I forget, because I know I will forget, he is right. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it. Right right there. He is right where my finger is pointing. He is right next to the Squid Game triangle dude, soldier. He is hiding behind him. He's got his butt showing. So, before I forget, that is where he was. Chris Barber goes, I was correct. So that is where he's hiding today. I kind of liked all the stories. I think one of my favorites was the guy gets into the car and there's no one driving, and then he goes into the pub and the guy goes, Dad, that's the bastard. He got into the car while we were pushing. That one was hilarious. I was not expecting that one. Oh, wow. That is crazy. Heather Whatever says a bear just charged my youngest son. He's over 6 feet and pretty solid. I was just spraying Windex at the windowsills. They hate ammonia. Wow. Chris Berger goes, I like trying to find him every show. That is crazy. I don't have bears in my neighborhood, but I know some neighborhoods that are closer to the mountains do get bears in their neighborhood. Because we have, it pops up on the news every once in a while that a bear is taking a dip in the pool, which I think is cute. Tyrana goes, they were all good stories. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad you liked them, Tyrana. Leonora goes, did I ever see the movie The Great Outdoors? I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Heather Whatever goes, my son is big. Bears don't care, I guess. I mean, I guess that's a good thing, though, Heather Whatever. Lisa Boo goes, all good stories. Lisa, thank you. Thank you, Lisa Boo. I'm glad you liked them as well, too, as well. Wendy goes, I had a mama and baby in my creek, snapped a pic. That is cool. I think, where was I? I was in Wyoming a while ago, and I remember I don't know what we were doing, and we were walking, and there was a moose. And he was still. And I remember pointing to my dad. I remember telling my dad, I go, is he real? Because he was real, but he was so still that it was crazy. And we were just walking by him, and he's just like a deer in the headlight kind of look, like still statue. And I thought it was so cool, though, because I was able to see him up close. Heather Whatever goes, the golden hand was good. I like that one, too. Heather Whatever goes, moose are scary. That's what I heard. They're beautiful, though. Matthew goes, awesome. Thanks. No problem, Matthew. Making sure I didn't forget anybody because I hate when I do that. Chris Barber goes, it's amazing how big moose are. I was just amazed because I was like, is he real? Like, I was really, but beautiful. Beautiful. It was amazing. It was beautiful there in Wyoming, too, because if you're coming from California and you go to some place that's full of trees and greenery, I live in the wrong state. Or the wrong area of the state, put it that way. Heather Whatever goes, beautiful but aggressive, not here, luckily. Guys, keep the questions going. I agree, Heather Whatever. Wyoming is amazing. Yeah, bears, I agree with you, Chris. Bears are huge. But I've never actually seen a bear in the wild. I've seen snakes, but Tyrana goes, any hiking lately? Not this week because I'm recovering. But today I just did a neighborhood walk, but I'm recovering from the weekend still. Trying to catch up on my sleep because of the lack of sleep from last weekend. Oh, I learned to sleep with loud music. That's all I can tell you guys. Because they had music. Because obviously the festival goes till 6 in the morning, but we didn't stay till 6 in the morning, but you could still hear it because we camped like right across the street from it, so you could still hear the music. And then of course the area we were at also had music, but I was able to fall asleep, which was weird. I had earplugs that I put on. Heather Weather goes, pretty time there, Lisa. Wildflowers. Oh, yes. I like looking at the flowers. I guess they're saying this year we're not getting the super bloom like we got the year before, but I still like seeing all the flowers. I even brought my white noise machine and it still didn't mask the music. And it'd be quiet for a while, and then because it started getting hot, like around 10 o'clock, and that's when people would wake back up. Because even though the tents had air conditioning, they weren't meant to have the beating sun on them. So about 10 o'clock, that's when people would wake up. So then the music would come back on. Lisa Boo goes, if you're tired enough, you could sleep anywhere. True. True. I took a lot of naps over the weekend. But nothing beats sleeping in your own bed. And then taking a proper shower. Oh my God. They have showers there, but it's just not the same because it's like it's not your shower. And you're in the shower head sucked, to be honest with you. I couldn't move the shower head, so it was kind of hard to like the shower head was like in the corner of the stall. I mean, I shouldn't complain because at least there were showers. Heather, whatever goes camping is fun, and so is going home. I know a lot of people. True. I know a lot of people were complaining about the heat. I knew it was going to be hot. I didn't mind that. It's part of the experience. I kind of accepted it. But it's that's what it is. It's part of the experience. That's why you go to camp, to experience it, not and of course it comes with the heat and stuff like that. Like you can't stay in your tent after a certain time because it gets too hot. And of course it's not that hot here yet, so I wasn't used to the heat. Chris Barber goes, I used to love camping at the racetrack for race weekends. That's like the best because then you don't have to, you'll be there the next day and you're already there at the event. You don't have to worry about the traffic or anything. Kyle goes, it's not a tent, it's a sweat lodge. Yes, or a sauna. At night, it was great because there's no sun. And it worked great. Like I was actually cold in the tent. Heather, whatever goes, no scary music stories. Nope. No, Heather, whatever. None yet. None that I found. I didn't have weird voodoo or anything while I was there. Nobody put a curse on me, or I didn't have I didn't have a witch following me around or whatnot. Nope. I was safe. You had to worry about the pickpocketers, but I have stuff like I have a phone tether that I put on my phone, and then I have an anti-theft backpack that I take, so I don't worry about that. Nikki Bella, how's it going? But heat aside, I have fun regardless. It's Chris Burgos, did you see the picture I posted on your Facebook? No, I did not, Chris. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on, yeah. Oh, the one Chris, the one about the t-shirt? That's cool. Oh, that is cool. That's super cool. I would have bought it anyways even if it didn't fit me. That's a cool shirt. That's cool. That's a cool find. Even if you can't wear it, you can always put it like you could put it up. That is a cool shirt. I've never seen a shirt like that. That's a cool shirt. It is. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end this stream? Let me check real quick. Chris Barber, I wear shirts that are too big. I don't care. Lisa Boo goes, thank you, Lisa. No problem. Heather, whatever good one, you're good storyteller. Thank you. Chris Barber goes, great show, great stories, Lisa. All right, guys, I am going to end the stream here. I will see you on the next one, which will be Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be there or be squared. Stay spooky and sweet nightmares, guys. And I will see you on the next one. You guys are awesome. Good night, guys.